But we're looking forward, for this week, getting back in. I'm always a little careful coming off, 4 days without practicing with the players, kind of getting their way into it. So one of the things we talked about today is we just have a little bit more stress on third downs. I think that's something that, is something that when you go back and you look at last year, for defense, we're looking at 3 to 6 to improve on. I thought we did a good job everywhere else, and then offensively overall, looking to improve upon, and that's one of the things that we're trying to get done. And we keep challenging the players with the discipline of mental errors. At this time of year, a lot of times people, one of the things that's important at this time of year is to make sure that you have a true understanding. One, a philosophy of what we want to get done. Two, making sure you know what to do when we win games. And then three, knowing how to execute your assignments, because that goes into the accountability, of everyone that's on that field. There's a lot of young players, and this is a time where you should progressively, as OTAs go, you're giving them a lot of information, but you want that focus and discipline. I talked to the team the other day about it's easy to focus and have discipline during the year because you practice on Wednesday, you practice on Thursday, Friday, but there's a game on Sunday. So there's kind of an end, to that week. And everything goes into it, and why you're doing it. And that's one of the things that I've tried to do a good job of this year is, hey, listen, this is why we have this voluntary period. This is what we need to accomplish. This is, even though there's not a game at the end, mastering, your position, whether it's techniques or whether it's your assignments, is something that we must, focus on. And I told them I've got to do a better job of that, making sure the team understands that.
Flaherty said on Friday that right guard was a spot that would sort of work itself out. How do you think AJ played last year, and what do you sort of want to see from that position?
I think, overall, I think that, I look at AJ, and I'm sure he would say the same thing, that he would like to play better. He has the ability to do it, and, we feel like he's been in there for a while now, and, we're looking forward to him getting back on. He's rehabbing, getting ready to get back on the field and working hard. And at the same point, we have, other players that are able to get in that position to see if they can play or not. Like Josh Walker is obviously playing there. I don't, when I say I don't know a lot about him, I just want to see him in there, and he's getting those reps now. So, we can see where he's at, whether we think he can play or not. So he has that ability in there. And we know what we have, I believe, with, a couple of the other interior guys.
When you have guys that have been long-term backup offensive linemen, is there ever, an urge to kind of switch that group around, or do you like having that longevity behind guys?
Well, I think, I look at it as there's a couple of different principles, I think, that work with those type of players, meaning that, if you are a backup offensive lineman, we'll stick with the offensive line. If you're a backup offensive lineman, the tough part with that is, the number 7. 7 is what you're going to dress for games. So you can't have someone that just plays one position. If you can, everyone's trying to avoid double moves, being the perfect scenario not to have that. So I look at the players that are behind as either, hey, this guy could be a starter for anyone else, but yet we just have a guy that's so much better in front of him. That's a good thing. That's the first scenario. The next scenario is, this guy's a little bit below, what we feel is a 16-game starter, but we feel he can play 4 or 5 games and be able to win those for us. If someone does get injured, to be able to go in there. The good position, is obviously the first one's the best one, and then this next one is, hey, this guy's developing, getting better, developing starter, and he's really close where he's going to go in there and push, for a starting job, and that's what we try to put in there. For me personally, I've always felt that, I've always used this coin, this type of phrase. I say, you're really one twisted ankle away from getting in there and playing. And that's why, for me as a coach, I always believed in coaching everyone like they're starters. So in my mind, I never coached someone of, hey, he's a starter, I'm coaching him differently than I'm coaching this backup. Because I don't believe that you should have anyone on your team that's in the category of, hey, you know what, we know if he goes in there, we could probably play with 3 or 4 games. I don't like that. That's not part of what my philosophy is. My philosophy is, hey, this guy's on this football team because he has a specific role, and then we put him in there, we expect to win. okay? And then obviously you have that player, and I think, a good example of that in the offensive line is I think Shatley's a good football player. You know what I'm saying? I have no problems, if he had to go in there and play center for us, I would have no issue at all. He's a very good player. So, I want to keep it, along those lines of where those players are going. Because if you don't, I think you limit players too. If they view themselves, if you're sitting in a room and you're saying to yourself, well, I'm a backup. I think that mindset, hurts not only yourself for your, personal growth, but I think it hurts the team. I want everyone thinking that they're going to be starters, and that's what they're striving for. So if they get a little frustrated at times, I'm okay with that. I'd rather that than the complacency of being like, oh, this is my deal.
How different is your job than other coaches' job this year? TA stuff where you're not having to evaluate guys and and get a feel for guys like you did last year. The first time you guys were on the field with them, is it different?
Fine line. It is. It's a fine line. I think that in my career we had a long conversation, and I need to keep bringing it up, Mike. Is that this is in this league, it's very important to be able to prove that you can do it on a consistent basis every day. And what happens is, and I go back to a place where I coached before, where it's almost the same situation. The team I was with, we went on to play in the NFC Championship game, and I know I can't speak for the other coaches on that staff, but I know for me, the first year, hey, if someone didn't practice well, we moved them down. If someone, we moved somebody up, moved them down, and it just went by what you saw on the film and how they did on the field. It was a very competitive environment, and people, rise to the occasion and thrive in that type of environment. I think the following year, where I made a mistake, I know I can only speak for myself, is that I started to say, you know what, he didn't have a great day, but hey, he's done this before. It's kind of like, what's that saying where you just kind of gaining that, putting those marbles in the bank or banking things, from performance. And I would say to myself, wow, he'll be fine, no problem. He did all last year. He did this well. He'll get this. He just had a bad day. Well, next day he had 2 bad days. Then all of a sudden, you start coaching a little bit differently because of that experience you've had with that player. But that experience has been in the past. You have to look at what's going on right now and focus on the moment now. And that's why I think every day, myself included, if I just did everything exactly the same way last year, I'm not helping this football team. You know what I'm saying? I've got to prove every day when I come in here, that I'm doing everything I can for us to win, no different than the assistant coaches and the players. Let's not get fooled by, what's been done in the past is gonna be what's expected of us, right now today. So for me with players, I think, and coaches, we've got to prove it every single day.
You have an undrafted free agent that went to the Citadel in Miami. In your track record as a coach, is there a difference with the discipline of those type of players?
You talking about for being from the Citadel or from being from Miami?
Any military.
Don't laugh. What's my?
But more of the military. The rigorous things.
Again, I can only speak from my experience. I coached at the U.S. Coast Guard Academy, and I understand it's Division III. And I think the last probably pro player they had was Otto Graham. You know what I'm saying? Who played, but I think it's true. I'm not sure. I'd have to check on that. But my point was, I used to get. They had a real quick story. I know this stuff bores the hell out of you, but it keeps this thing going. So when I was at the Coast Guard Academy, I wasn't an officer, but I was allowed to use some of the officer, privileges, that they had, and use some of the things that were on the base. So I was able to go get my haircut, which was great because my haircut's very simple. It's not a very difficult haircut. You know what I'm saying? You know what I'm saying? I mean, basically, it's you know what I'm saying? It's just clippers, a little bit of scissors. You know what I'm saying? And then that's it. You know what I mean? So, but where we used to get our haircut, it was like $5. You know what I'm saying? Give it like a $2 tip. But there they had the belt. You know what I'm saying? That belt that they used to give out to the best athlete. So they had that belt sitting right there, and I'd go in there and be an older gentleman. And I'd be like, Otto Graham sat in this seat, and I'd say, I hope it rubs off on me. You know what I'm saying? As far as the knowledge of it and going, but pretty much they were the most not taken away from anyone else I've ever coached. But I always say this to this day, probably out of all the places I've coached, those players tend to stay in touch with me more than others. Most of them became captains. Some of the gentlemen that were on the staff were admirals, became admirals. And the discipline that they go through there, it's unbelievable. I mean, when you think training camp stuff and you think that, what they do at the academies it's unbelievable. And but I do see some of that discipline. You want to be able to see that, because I don't think you can, go to one of the academies for that long a period of time and not have some type of discipline to yourself. I think it's and some leadership qualities, things that they instill. But I want to say that, and I want to make sure I note this, there's a lot of that with other schools. When people, get to be professional athletes, there is a lot of discipline there. And that's one of the things we talk to our players about.
How impressive.
It was funny when he announced himself. He said he was from Miami. I said, "You're not from Miami. You're from Citadel." Only because you had more years at Citadel than Miami.
How impressed have you been so far with DJ Chark and what he's done here?
Good. I mean, I think you can see the things of the qualities of why we drafted him. It's obviously, is the guy that can run. He's a big, tall receiver. He can, do a lot of things team-wise and things of that nature. So I think all the things that came into play of, why we were able to select him, the things that we look for, we're seeing that progression. But at the same time, I always watch myself, we're still, not playing yet. It's going to be, interesting when we start playing in training camp and the pads come on and go through those preseason games.